Welcome to the podcast. In today's show, we're going to be talking about what's on everyone's mind. Is it a good time to buy? We'll discuss the pros and cons of buying in Q4 2022 versus waiting till 2023 and buying in the first half of 2023, considering today's mortgage market and what buyers can do to help alleviate some of that. Then we'll dive into Compass's Q3 market report and see what some of Chicago's hottest neighborhoods are doing and how you can take advantage in some of those areas. Finally, we'll answer some interesting first-time homebuyer questions from Reddit. And if you have a question that you want addressed on the next podcast, just leave it in the comments and we'll be sure to get to it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Anyway, welcome David Fields to the podcast. So let's just get into the topic of the podcast. Just flat out, is it a good time to buy? If I'm a buyer and I ask you that question, what are you saying?
Well, I don't give blanket statements. It's just not my thing. I think that it can be kind of dangerous in real estate, just a yes or a no. So I would just ask more questions. I think that it's very personal. It's very individualized. So I think that for some people, it's a great time to buy. For others, they might want to wait. So I think it totally depends on.
So I'm your typical, our first-time home buyer that we work with is probably buying between 600 and 800,000. Sometimes, let's just say it's a young couple, me and my significant other. What are some of the questions, given snapshot in time, I need to be thinking about?
So I think first and foremost, it comes down to how long you want to stay put in the same spot. Because I think that if you're someone that likes to move around a lot, then renting is probably continuing to rent is probably the right move. If you're someone that likes to stay put, that is going to be in Chicago in the same job for the next 3 to 5 years, then if you're playing with the idea of buying, it's probably the right move. You could build some equity, and I think financially it's a good choice.
But David, I'm scared. Interest rates are so high. What about what happened with COVID and in 2021?
Sure. Yeah, COVID was obviously one of these crazy things that occur every decade or two. What I would say is as long as you're okay with what you can afford on a monthly basis, I wouldn't worry too much about interest rates. I would worry about what you can afford and finding a really good place.
Yeah. I wanted people to hear what a normal agent who's encountered with these questions every day, what they're going to hear. What I think is interesting and what I think people don't talk about enough is two things can be true at the same time. It can be a good time to buy in 2021. And it can be a good time to buy in 2022. The problem that we have is the used car salesman thing. Buy now, buy later. We have special financing that can get you into whatever you need. There is an argument that some people in 2021 who paid 50 grand over list price at a 2.5% interest rate, there's an argument that they won, right?
Yeah.
There's an argument now in, the latter part of 2022, you have a house that someone has to, they get it for 50 grand under asking at a 7.5% rate. There's an argument that they also won.
Right.
So everyone wants there to be a black and white answer, but just like everything, and I think we can talk about American culture, it comes down to nuance and understanding that this is a dynamic business. You're talking about a $500,000 to $1 million purchase. It's complex.
Yeah, and I think that there's opportunity in every market, right? So like you said before, the opportunity was get a low rate that you can lock in for 30 years. Now the opportunity is kind of shifted where buyers have a little bit more leverage. You could get a little bit better of a price. You might pay a higher interest rate, but eventually over time, we're going to assume that that's going to come down and you can refinance. Maybe you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. So, you and I agree. The challenge is the typical first-time home buyer doesn't have all this context. They're being fed whatever they're being fed. Here's a question for you, and I have a screen over here. So there was a homebuyer confidence poll that just came out. What percentage, don't you fucking look. What percentage of home buyers say that it is a good time to buy? You're not expected to know this, but
I just got to go blind.
Yeah. Shooting from the hip. You have a good sense of buyer mentality.
I would say I think it's going to be below 50. So I'm going to guess somewhere around 40.
16%. It is a record low. And it's coming from Fannie Mae. So 16% is, that's incredibly low, but it's not all that surprising. It's is buyer confidence low right now?
Yeah.
Is it as low as you've ever experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So, I mean, the data is there. Interestingly enough, I bet you it'll change given, so last week we saw mortgage rates come down for the first time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. So let me throw some more data at you. You love data, right?
Love it.
So, June of 2022, we saw our peak in the number of closed transactions. Okay. From then, the peak. Let's take, October closed out. How far down are we from a percentage standpoint from June?
Number of closed transactions.
Yeah. On a percentage basis?
From June. I mean, some of it's seasonality.
For sure.
It's obviously going to come down.
Oh, no doubt.
And then obviously rates shot up. This is really hard to do without knowing.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess somewhere around like 25.
Yeah, 33%.
Okay.
And you said it exactly right. And it comes down to nuance. And that's like, we're not the type to just give like these blanket statements. The housing market's crashing. No, it's going down at a faster rate. From June to the end of October, it came down at a sharper rate than usual, right? So the number of closed transactions came down dramatically. But with that, and I think this is more interesting, is that prices dropped by 13%, right? So all of these people had this, this big boost in their equity. And there's an argument that everyone across the board lost 13% of their home's value, right?
Sure.
A lot of that is seasonality. It's, it's a market just like any other market. It depends when you want to sell or when you want to buy. But that begs the question. We are where we are. The question is, what do we see happening going into December and then the first part of 2023? What are your predictions given where interest rates are, or where buyer demand is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know. Neither do you.
Right. Everyone kind of has these predictions and no one really knows. But if I did take a stab at it, I would think, obviously going into December, I think it's going to be slow. It always is. I think there's going to be low inventory as there has been for the past several years. I think come mid-January, when we usually see more of the spring market pick up, I think demand's going to come back. Obviously, we've already seen a little tick down in interest rates. I think that people are going to get a little bit more comfortable with where things are at, because there's this like recency bias of everyone heard 3, everyone heard 2%. So now when they see 6 or 7, they're like shell shock. But I think by January, February, it'll subside a little bit. Maybe we're in like the 6s.
Yeah, and I think there's an argument. So we saw it was like a 0.5 point tick down in mortgage rates. So it went from like 8 to 7.5. But like now some of the stuff that we've been saying, hey, don't worry, buy and then refinance. Now when people start to see the evidence of that, like, oh, they're not full of shit. We're going to go ahead and do this. So 7.5. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it'll be, I keep on telling people, forget about what you think, forget about what I think. The Federal Reserve said that by the end of 2023, they want to stabilize interest rates and, mortgage rates will follow. They want to stabilize at 4.5%.
Yeah.
So it's going to, unfortunately, you and I don't have we should be on CNN, right? We agree. And MSNBC. This should be fed all across the nation, but it's not. And ultimately, we're not going to get as much clicks by giving facts.
Right.
As opposed to fear-mongering bullshit, frankly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's kind of go ahead into like what are some of the things that we're going to see in 2023? And let's start with the most cringe of them all, which is date the rate, marry the home. Define it for us first.
Okay. So what usually it's a mortgage lender saying that, some realtors as well. I made a video on TikTok saying it.
Yeah.
And the more I've heard it, the more I've started to kind of dislike it. Basically what it means is the price that you pay for the home is going to stay the same for as long as you own that home. Your rate, however, can fluctuate. So you marry the home, date the rate, so you can refinance.
A long-term relationship with the home.
Right.
Short-term relationship
with your rate.
With the rate. It's gotten a lot of eye rolls and a lot of flack, and I said it's cringe.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think that for me at least, I just see it over and over and over. So it's like the 100th time you've heard something, you're like, okay, we got to marry the home, date the rate. I thought it was clever when I first heard it. But I think that, again, it's a blanket statement. And like I said, I don't like to do anything with blanket statements, especially in real estate. So I think it's very important that you're not, whoever it is that's buying this home is not overextending themselves financially to date the rate, hoping that it comes down next year or needing it to come down next year, because it might not. It might take 2 years. It might take 3 years. And if you're putting yourself in a bad position,
It's just never good advice.
it's never good.
Yeah.
So there's more that needs to be said.
I think that my problem with it is it's, we, like you and I, David Fields and Ben Lalez, we want to be seen as financial advisors unless it's a shtick, right? And you and I, in general, steer clear from these shticks, and that's all it really is.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's good advice that interest rates fluctuate, right?
Yeah.
And you want to have someone in your corner who's going to tell you, hey, it's time to potentially refinance.
Right.
And, we have great lender partners that will, they want you to refinance because they make a little bit more money. So they're going to be the first ones knocking on your door. So there shouldn't be as much fear about interest rates as there is. So let's talk about some other strategies that we've seen, and we've seen them on contracts now. And I'll define it this time. So there's an opportunity to buy down your rate. So instead of potentially getting closing cost credits or repair and replacement credits, we're seeing buyers, let's say you're under contract at $500,000, instead of asking for a $5,000 credit for repairs, they're asking for $5,000 to reduce their interest rate. Did you know that banks like money?
Really?
Yeah, no, it's news to me too. So the bank is like, all right, give us $5,000 up front, we'll reduce your rate, and hence your monthly payment will go down.
Right.
And ultimately, you can do this and buy your rate down to whatever. But what do you think about that strategy for a home buyer?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, especially if you're using credits to do it, it's not like cash out of your pocket anyway. So yeah, I think that's a great way to go about getting a little bit lower interest rate. I see nothing wrong with it, really.
I'll make this is just devil's advocate. There is an argument, given that, I want to be seen as like a financial advisor, like alongside your accountant and, your financial planner. I want the cash personally, especially right now, given where the real estate market, the stock market is. If I can take that $5,000 as opposed to saving whatever that may be, $75 a month, which is, so, I'm not sneezing at $75 a month, but if I have that $5,000 in cash, it just becomes an opportunity cost of that $5,000 question. Can I put it into the market and have it grow as opposed to saving $75 a month? It becomes like this bigger question.
Right.
So to your point, again, is it a good idea? Sometimes. And that's going to be the answer for a lot of the stuff as we go through this. Do you know what a 2-1 buy down is?
I do.
Define it for us. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So basically, like a lot of banks have come out with this 2-1 buy down, where basically you pay a lump sum and you can get, I believe for the first year you get 2 points off your interest rate. For the second year you get 1 point off your interest rate. After that you go back to whatever the market demands.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very similar to buying down your rate, but you're front loading it. Why? Because everyone expects interest rates to come down. So there's an argument to not buy down your rate for the life of your loan and have a $75 per month decrease, to front load that $5,000 and get $150 or $200 reduction in your monthly payment just on the front end.
Yeah.
And I really like it. I can put it on record. Interest rates are going to go down in the next 24 months. Right.
Yeah.
That's a gamble that I'm willing to take, right?
Yeah, I think it's a really good option for a lot of people, and I think it's smart that they came up with it, and it's definitely something people should explore.
So I don't know if you remember, we were actually sitting in this room and we were talking about how high net worth individuals are, buying more in cash right now, right? And potentially to take a page out of their book. So why are they doing it? because with 7.5%, 8% interest rates, that, is a great return on your money. Instead of having to pay that, they're just paying it all in cash and letting the house appreciate, and they're letting their cash do the work for them. So not all of us, let's say, we've been playing with $500,000 to $800,000. Not all of us have that kind of cash in the bank. So how do you feel about increasing, if you were planning on putting 10% down, you have to, that's an additional 90% that you're going to be paying 7.5% on. What about bumping that up to 20 or 30% so your interest expense comes down?
Yeah, I think that's smart as well. But again, it's going to depend on that specific financial situation. If you're putting yourself in a bad spot where you're going to have no money and no nest egg, no cushion, don't do it. But I think that if you have the extra cash and it's just sitting in a savings account and you're not investing it or doing anything with it, then yeah, I think you should put it towards your house.
And here's like that where the complexity comes in again. I'll give you a perfect example. So I had a client when interest rates were 2, he was able to get 2.25, high net worth guy. He's buying $1 million house. He's like, how much should I put down? I'm like, well, it depends. If you put 20% down, so $200,000, if he was buying $1 million place, if you put $200,000 as a down payment, into your home, it's going to sit there and you'll save a little bit of money because money is so cheap. But if you were to put that $200,000 elsewhere and make 6%, then you, in a very real way, made 3.5%. Now, we're having the opposite conversation. I mean, what percentage of the people, of all 50 people who are watching this right now, what percentage of them understood that math?
I don't know.
Yeah. And leave in the comments if you actually made it to minute 14:30 and drop it in the comments. But it's not easy. We're doing this day in and day out, and we forget that it's second nature for us. But it's complicated. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think you hit it on the head. And definitely, if you're a cash buyer now, you have, I think, more leverage than ever. You can negotiate a great deal.
Yep.
You're not paying the 7% on your loan, and it's the greatest time ever, I think, to be a cash buyer. If only we were all so fortunate.
All right, so we're going to get a little bit more granular and talk about particular neighborhoods, right? So I got some stats here, and I kind of want your
stats.
Kind of want your general reaction. So we're sitting in Bucktown, so we're going to talk Logan Square first.
Sure.
Because that makes sense.
It's right here.
Yeah, it's right here. So let's talk about new listings, because every time anyone says anything to me, like, oh, the market's going to crash, or like the real estate market, what do I say? Oh, show me the listings. Like, before anything bad can happen, there needs to be oversupply, or, there is an argument buyer demand needs to drop dramatically, but there still isn't. Hey, we have buyers, you and I, like, we're working with them. They have nothing to go out and purchase.
Right.
So let's talk about new listings. So September of 2021, there were 524 new single-family homes that came to the market. In September of 2022, there were 392. So everyone, again, actually, before I kind of give my thoughts, what do you think?
Yeah, less inventory. So it's kind of the same thing we've been saying for the longest. It's like, everyone worries about 08. 08 is like the big thing that people turn to when there's a downturn in the real estate market. And that's the number one difference. Aside from the whole mortgage thing, there was this huge oversupply of inventory then. And right now we're still at like, I don't know what the stats are, but it's probably like 2 months supply of inventory.
Yep.
So
I know. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I'm with you. So let me just give a little bit more context. Everyone agrees that in 2021, there wasn't enough supply. No one will, they'll never have an argument.
Yeah, there's no disagreement.
No disagreement. There is less inventory in Logan Square in 2022 than in 2021. The only difference was buyer demand is lower. There's less supply. So and that's true for new listings. It's new for under contract listings. It's new for it's the same for closed sales. And actually in Logan Square, the average sales price has gone up, which makes sense because supply is down.
Right.
So this comes down to, I feel like we need a big like billboard that says national real estate trends mean nothing when you're buying locally.
Yes.
It's like, how many times can we say the same things?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hyper local. That's how it is. And what happens is that people see these headlines, they get a little bit scared, demand comes down, and we just end up in this like stalemate almost of low demand, low inventory. And it's like,
that's where we're at. Just take a look at Lincoln Park. We'll do a little guessing game. So versus September, total month September of 2021, total single family home listings. I'll tell you it's down, right, for September of 2022. By how much, percentage wise?
oh boy, 30.
It's 30.9. Yeah, so it's
0.9,
down
30.9 is what
so like same, right? And under the number of homes that went under contract in that same month in September was down 20%, right? So that gives you kind of that delta, right? So you have like a 10% gap, so it feels like the market has slowed, and it has. But the biggest thing, like a word that I want everyone to learn, is velocity. The speed at which stuff is coming on the market and coming off the market, that's what we're talking about. Yes, that has slowed, right? And to your point, all that is low supply, low demand environment. That's what you're going to get. So let's look at condos in Lincoln Square, just to like kind of round out everything. So take a wild guess what happened to both new listings, September versus September 2022 versus 2021, and homes under contract.
You said Lincoln Square?
Lincoln Square.
I'm going to guess they're both down.
Yeah. So there's kind of like your market snapshot. We got Lincoln, Lincoln Park, Lincoln Square, Logan Square. These are neighborhoods that we work in, all the time.
Right.
And it's just like the same thing. So kind of like no real news, but I will say this. So, we work with 75% buyers, mm-hmm. right? 25% of our business is sellers. For the first time in my career, I'm holding listings for February, March, right? And if that's true of, our team, the Lee Marcuses, the Laracies, the Jeff Lowe's, they're also holding.
Right.
Right. So there's going to be more listings.
There's your inventory, right?
Okay, there's your inventory. What is going to happen to demand? Right? Something's got to give. So is there going to be we're going to have the seasonal pickup of, they always say spring market starts in January, February. There's going to be that seasonal pickup.
Yep.
Is it going to be enough? Stay tuned.
I mean, I think we're going to have a really busy Q1. That's my opinion. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move into our Reddit portion. So we're going to answer the internet's questions. I think you've done
I've done a few of these.
Answer the internet?
Yep.
All right, so I'll read this real quick. The title of it is, "Why do lenders do this?" I roll. I had a 65-day closing out of convenience for us and the owner. I had provided anything and everything under the sun that was asked for. And in the last 2 weeks, I've been on top of my lender, making sure that everything needed was, given. Asking where we're at, etc. Everything's okay. We don't need anything else, they kept saying. We're okay because you're not a priority. There's still so much time left. Don't worry, everything's okay. They kept kicking down the can. Friday. Ring, ring. Hello. Hi, yes. Can we have a copy of your stockbroker statements? Blah, 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 blah. Sent. Do you need anything else? Blah, 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 blah. Then finally, at the very last second, they're asking, where this is going. 2 days before the closing, we need A, B, C, D, your blood type, your social security number, etc. Why?
Why?
Yeah, why is
why?
this?
Because you probably went with a lender that wasn't that great. They shouldn't be waiting till the last minute. I think if you work with a lender that's communicative and reputable and probably local to wherever you are, they're going to be on top of it from the beginning. And they might need some follow-up paperwork depending how long your closing is. But if you send them a bank statement every month, or maybe like just updates with like brokerage accounts or whatever it is, then it shouldn't be a problem. And if they gave them all this stuff up front, I'm not sure why I would wait till the last minute.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think this is the norm. And I think everyone needs to understand that your file is not going to become a hyper priority until a week out. These mortgage companies, these lenders have files 1,000 deep, and they're working right now, today is Monday. They are working on the closings for Wednesday and Thursday because they need to polish it up. They need to get all of these clearances from underwriting. You're getting a $600,000 loan from someone, right? There's checks and balances. They have way more compliance than you do. I think it's, in some regard, it's par for the course. If they're asking you for something that you've already done, right? If they're asking you for like the application or something that you've sent and they're asking for duplicates, I agree, it's a problem. But yeah, if it's a 65-day close, today's November 15th, yeah, they might need your pay stub from October.
I think another thing is that it comes down to expectation setting. And this is something that we talk about a lot.
Do we talk about that?
A lot.
Expectation.
Daily, because it's so important in real estate, because most people are not just buying real estate on a whim. It's a very, you do maybe once in a decade. If you're an investor, maybe more.
Yeah, it's a huge
So you don't
decision.
know this process like the back of your hands like we do, because we're in this day in and day out. So I think whoever her lender is should have set him or her, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, should have set their expectations clearly.
Hey, the week before, I apologize, but we're probably going to have to ask you for a few more things. It's going to be a headache. I apologize up front.
And then you don't get this person on Reddit
and then it's
complaining.
Done. It's done.
And you probably get a 5-star review, and they know what to expect. They're happy.
Yeah.
It's important.
I mean, there's an argument that their real estate broker didn't do enough either. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, yeah, interesting that we disagreed a little. Where should you keep your savings for your down payment is the headline. Let's say you are buying, let's just make the numbers nice and round. There's $1 million. It's $1 million place. You're putting 20% down, $200,000. Where should we keep our money? In a checking account, a savings account, your investment account, etc.?
So I think it depends where the money starts, because I don't think if you're going to pull from like an investment account or retirement account or something like that, just keep it there and wait till you close. You can probably pull those funds a day or two prior to closing, I think. If it's in your checking account currently and you just don't want it to sit there, I'd probably look for a savings account that could get you, I think there's savings accounts now that can get you like 3% interest or something like that, a high yield savings account. I would look for something like that to put the money, or you can just keep it in. It depends how long you're going to look as well.
I think the challenge is if you do have it in an investment account, I bet you there's someone out there who, was planning on putting $200,000 down, and then the value of their stock portfolio went down to 130 or something, and they just
that's a
didn't
good
have the
point.
funds. So I think this is a perfect example of having like a well-rounded team around you. Like if you're, in that ballpark, you need an accountant, you need a financial advisor, you need a real estate broker, and you need a lender that all have some form of communication together. I know some of my clients' financial advisors better than like they do, right? Because the reason people have financial advisors usually is they're not as financially literate as they would like to be.
Sure.
But I can speak in an offhand way with some of these financial advisors, and we're like, hey, they're going to need $200,000. Like, is there any risk to keeping it here? Should they move out, 80% of it and let 20% of it ride? Ultimately, that is I think personally, it's a better question for a financial advisor. You and I don't want to go on record. We are fiduciaries. I feel like we need like a disclaimer. Can we put in one of those voices that's like, this is not advice.
Yeah, this is not intended to be financial advice. So ask consult with a financial advisor before making any decisions with your money.
Ben's the safe one.
Yeah.
Put it in crypto. Let it ride.
All right. So next one is titled, Should I buy a home over 150 years old? Is there anything I need to be aware of? Man, this is about the easiest.
Yes.
Yes.
You should. Yes, there are things you should be aware of.
Expect everything.
Yeah.
I think, do you mind if I take a
Yeah.
crack at this one? So I think it's a safe assumption that if a home is, let's call it over 100 years old, let alone 150 years old, it's probably gone through some renovating, right?
Yeah.
If it's truly
Hopefully.
150 years old and original, like, don't buy it, period.
That might be worth more.
But yeah, because you're going to be able
Yeah.
to like sell
Yeah,
like
right.
this cloth wiring.
Piecemeal the stove.
Yeah. So I don't think I don't know if there's even such thing as a original 150-year-old home.
No, I mean, that's really old.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. There's no way. So begs the question, is it even, if you've changed the roof, changed the siding, changed the electrical plumbing, reinforced the foundation, like, it's not even the same house. Like,
Right.
you've changed everything. Moral of the story, like, we kind of go overboard. We teach kind of going overboard on inspection, getting a sewer scope. You know, we've all brought out separate tradespeople along with the general home inspection, and we've done you name it. You name the inspection. I've done asbestos, lead,
Yep.
you know, everything. So yeah, just inspect the fuck out of the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we deal with like places that were built 100 years ago all the time. And that's honestly what I prefer aesthetically from the exterior. The inside is a totally different story. If it's original from 100 years ago, you're going to have, I mean, you're looking for a project at that point, right? You're not going to move in and not do a gut renovation.
Right.
Because you're probably going to fall through the floors and you're probably going to electrocute yourself and get lead paint poisoning.
And die. And your whole family will die.
Okay.
All right. Next one from Reddit is, it's talking about lending. Should I shop around when I'm already under contract? So giving some more context, they're under contract, they're in underwriting with lender A. Should they shop around?
We've all been here, right?
Oh my God. This is an everyday question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you should do most of your due diligence prior to going under contract.
Disagree.
I think that once you go under contract, yeah, you can shop around, but I would try to be fairly quick. I mean, I've had situations where there's like 4 different appraisals because they're shopping rates around and everyone's confused and lenders are mad at me and appraisers are mad at me. And it's like,
The seller's mad at their
Yeah,
listing agents,
yeah.
like, why the fuck are there 4 appraisers calling me?
right.
Yeah.
So I think there's a time limit on it. I think you should shop. You should get yourself the best deal always. That's my opinion. But try to do it quickly. Try to do it prior to going under contract if you can, or within the first couple of days thereafter.
I say by the time attorney review is done, you should you should know who your horse is, ride it to the end. Lending is complicated just like everything else. Like, it's not all about the rate. It's about, it's also about points and origination fees and appraisal fees and type,
And who can close?
yeah, and who can actually, that's the only thing that actually matters. So, I think I end up agreeing with you, except for a little bit of the timing. And then,
Sorry, Scotty.
yeah, is this a good time for our
plug?
Yeah, our plug.
Let's plug Scotty.
Go for it.
For all your lending needs, reach out to Scott Schneiderman at Guaranteed Rate.
All right. The last article is called "The Seller's Agent is Claiming Verbal Offer to Get Highest Offers?" ? Yeah. So let's just paint an example. Let's say I'm the list agent, right? You offered on one of my properties, on one of my listings, you offered $500,000, and I'm saying, "Hey, David, how are you? Listen, we just got a verbal in. It's tight. So we're going to go ahead and call for highest and best." What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. Multiple offer situations are like, so much is based on good faith, I feel, with the other agent. And you don't always necessarily know that you're getting that good faith for a fact.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of blindly just hope that agent, since they're licensed, they're a professional, that they're giving me the honest truth. I think that if it's not in writing, doesn't count.
If the offer, let's say, I mean, that's the question, is if it is in writing, right, and it's not just a verbal, is there ever a real way to know?
No.
There's no real difference in my head. You say there's an offer, I have to just kind of like trust you. It comes down to like integrity. Do you want to be known as the agent
Exactly.
who fucks around? If it does actually I don't know how it would get out, but like if it does, you're fucked.
Yeah. And I've been in this situation where I've been in a lot of multiple offer situations, as most agents over the last couple of years have been. And almost every time the client asks me, well, how do we actually know that they have multiple offers?
We don't.
And the answer, yeah, I don't, but I know that I have to take this agent's word for it. And could they be lying? Yes.
Yeah.
Should they lie? Absolutely not.
I mean, they would lose if it could somehow be proven, they would lose their license. There are probably agents who are taking that risk all the time. I'll give you an example. Like we had a listing and, one person offered and, 3 other people were like, hey, Ben, like we are definitely putting an offer. Let us know when the other offers come in. And like one person actually put pen to paper, right? And, I'm like, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, this offer came in. I have it. Here it is. Here are the terms. And I'm told these other 3 offers are coming in. I know these other agents. I don't think they're bluffing. Why would they bluff? And I'm like, I think we should set a highest and best by Friday at whatever. The other 3 offers don't materialize, some A, B, and C excuse. And it just is what it is.
So you go highest and best to the one offer you have.
I went highest and best to all 4. I was like, hey, written offer A, like come with your highest and best.
Yeah.
And then B, C, and D, hey, just so you know, there's a lot of activity. We have one offer in hand. We're just going to go highest and best.
Yeah.
Right? Just to save everyone time. You don't need to like submit another offer just to go back and amend it.
Yeah. I've seen some listing agents call for best and final or highest and best before,
With no offers.
With no offers before going, like first day on the market. In the broker remarks, it says highest and best by Sunday at whatever, 5
Sometimes
p.m.
you're going to get multiple offers.
Right.
In 2021, if you list a 2-2 for 465 and it looks good, you're getting multiple offers. Let's save everyone their time. Now, I mean, my example is it's fucking tricky. Like I didn't want to be that guy. Like we didn't have any other offers and this person did increase their offer and they did negotiate against themselves.
Right.
Did I do something wrong?
No, you did what's right for your client. And I think that that's one thing that people kind of need to realize is that brokers in the transactions have to look out for their client's best interest, period. And in this case scenario, the best interest of your client was getting them the best offer possible.
Isn't it always in my client's best interest then to tell all the other agents multiple offers received, highest and best?
If it's true, I mean,
if it's no, forget about if it's true or not.
Well,
it's in my client's best interest. Isn't that the only thing that matters?
Well, I don't think that you can just fabricate things out of thin air. I think that if it's the truth, absolutely.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think, for this kind of rounding out the Reddit article is that buyer needs to understand that the agent doesn't give a shit about you in the end. They want to do what's right by you, but there's an end to that. They're only looking out for the seller. That's their job.
Right.
They have a fiduciary duty, a legal duty to look out for the seller. So if someone writes an email, hey, I have a client who might be interested in submitting an offer, I'm going to milk that for what it's worth, right?
Right.
I think we covered a lot today, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So key takeaways for you.
Key takeaways. I think blanket statements in this industry are dangerous. You shouldn't buy into them too much. Everything is personal. Everything is based on your situation. So don't listen to blanket statements. Don't get too scared or afraid of national news headlines. Demand is down a little, and supply is still low. But I think that buyers have a really good opportunity to get deals at this point. And
they might get the last laugh.
Yeah.
David Fields, thank you for joining the podcast that's yet to be named.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, leave a comment. Anything else?
Who's naming this podcast?
I'm going to name it. It's the Named at a Later Day podcast. Working title.
You should let the people name the podcast.
Oh my God. If we end up using your name for the podcast, you get to be a guest on the podcast. And
you get to have David Fields as your real estate.
We don't care where you live. Cool. Thanks, David.
Sweet. Thanks, Ben.